What's up, gamers? Apples are out and pumpkins are in. Just ask the company.
What are we doing wrong?
Though, to be honest, I never really got the pumpkin trend. Fall's cool and all, but there's gotta be something out there to make it all worth it.
Pumpkin Jack is a small indie game that was almost single-handedly made by Nicholas Masonier. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. Head Up Games produced the game, and you might recognize them for also producing the Bridge Constructor series. Pumpkin Jack started development in October of 2016, and went through numerous changes of character designs, level layouts, and art style tweaks before it was finally released on October 23rd of 2020. The basic story of the game starts with the world being perfect. So perfect, in fact, that the devil decides to unleash a spell that brings back monsters across the world in order to destroy it. Though, humanity calls upon a wizard as their champion in order to break the curse. So, the devil got a champion of his own in the form of the greatest trickster to ever live, Stingy Jack. With a deal set in place, if Jack, after being put into a pumpkin and given a body, defeats the wizard, then he would gain passage to the afterlife. I always love it in games when you get the chance to play as a villain, and this premise perfectly suits it. I honestly didn't expect this though, as when I was looking at whether or not to buy the game, he looks like a hero. Pumpkin Jack as a character is nowhere near being a hero either. He basically acts as the guy who's fed up with basic tropes and just wants to get stuff done, and if you get in his way, he'll kill you. Though his constant bickering with other characters didn't make me hate him, as it's still playful while staying true to the character history that was set up in the story. Along the way, you'll meet an owl who is sent by the devil to make sure you're getting your job done. They act as the guiding character or who tells you what to do. Along with that, they also give you checkpoints. You'll probably never need the health given, as you get health from just destroying environmental props. Soon after meeting the owl, you'll also meet a cowardly crow who will act as your sidekick throughout the adventure. Think Banjo and Kazooie or Ratchet and Clank for their dynamic. The side characters are also great as they make the world feel lived in. We have a costume salesman who makes clothes out of corpses. We have guards who are too busy being annoyed that they have guard duty, so they don't notice you until the last second. We have a gravekeeper who forces you to do meaningless tasks before helping you progress throughout the level. A vegan couple who loves Pumpkin Jack and his legends, but they need a human soul-infected pumpkin in order to complete their meal, so they kidnap Jack. The ferryman who you just refuse to pay, and just so many other great characters. Hell, even the big bad of the game, the wizard, is a great character and makes you actually motivated to beat him due to what he says. This reminded me a lot of Gruntilda from Banjo-Kazooie, as they also motivate you to beat them as they mock you while you play. In fact, this whole game reminded me of Banjo-Kazooie due to the goofy characters, soundtrack, art style, and level design. I love how the game notes how multiple side tasks are only being done due to plot conveniences, reminding me of Crash Twinsanity, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and again, Banjo-Kazooie. There's 6 total levels in the game, though they average around 25 minutes of time to beat them, if you're taking your time with collectibles and puzzles. They almost all follow the spooky Halloween theme while trying something unique for each one. Of course, a swamp and graveyard are stereotypical for this genre, but they still manage to do interesting things. I love how in the swamp you come across ghost towns and have to jump across mushrooms in order to get items to progress. Or in the graveyard, you have to destroy statues that represent the 7 deadly sins in order to help an architect of hell charge a portal for you. The other levels have some amazing moments too. The fields ends with a great final chase as you run out of the burning barn. Skeletown is stuck in a war as you try to navigate through while getting caught in the crossfire. And the Haunted Mines gives some great platforming due to how high you are. The final level strays from the Halloween theme a bit as it takes place in the north. This still fits in my opinion just due to how close Halloween and Christmas are, and it just makes sense that they would naturally be opposed. To help break up the pacing of the levels, there's small minigames and writing sections. The minigames involve you separating your head from your body to jump into an area to beat them. One involves you moving around a bomb to a certain point, and I got flashbacks to all of the puzzles within other games that involve ball physics, and are universally hated due to how hard it is to control them. Thankfully, I can't say the same here as you just hit it around with it stopping there, no rolling around past that. Two others involve basic minigames like whack-a-mole and matching, though I found it funny how hidden within the matching minigame were references to characters. The final minigame was super cool as well, as it was partially a mini-boss with Santa. You knock the specific present shapes back at him in order to blow up his workshop, but if you get it wrong, it takes away part of your charge. The riding sections were also quite fun, as they were on-rail segments that forced you to dodge and jump over things. They were much easier, but still helped give a quick break from the normal gameplay. I love the nod to the Headless Horseman when Jack gets his head stolen. I found it great that these sections both happen twice in a level, which makes sure that it doesn't get too repetitive, while still getting people familiarized with the concept, then making them master it later on. The enemies in the game consist of basic monsters and human guards, though that does fit the theming. They follow basic enemy types as well, with close range attackers, far range attackers, and small plots that spawn a lot of smaller enemies until destroyed. Some will definitely take your focus when you get to the points with these attackers spawning, whether it be due to the amount of health they have, or you just trying not to get overwhelmed by the smaller post enemies. I loved how later on some enemies have a shield from your crow attacks, forcing you to get close or else they'll snipe you. This helps to make the player rethink their strategies during fights, which just gets shown off even more during the ferryman section, as you have to pay attention to the boat and platforming sections coming up, along with the enemies. The enemies all aren't too bad to defeat, as their biggest strength comes in numbers, and with them overwhelming you. I only died around 25 times when playing the game, which might seem like a lot, but it didn't come from the enemies, just me exploring for collectibles and dying from messing up platforming. I love how the game partially mocks you when you die with small bits of text. The bosses are great too, as they each fit the levels that they're found in, though they feel a bit repetitive. They're unique, don't get me wrong, but they all follow the same basic pattern. Do a couple of attacks, then get a cooldown for you to hit them, but with something that isn't your normal set of weapons. And after that, part of the boss arena disappears, making it harder for you to dodge attacks. This disappoints me, as they have some unique designs and attacks, but they don't get fully utilized in practice. The final boss, the wizard, is no different, as he does the same pattern. The attacks are clearly harder to dodge, and it takes a while to set up the attack against him, but it still has that boring pattern. I was partially expecting the devil to be the final boss and for him to turn on Jack and the deal that was made, but I was wrong. After beating the wizard, Jack gains a huge amount of power and chooses to roam the earth, despite having the ability to destroy it. Upon beating each boss, you gain access to a new weapon, with them partially reflecting on the level you're about to enter. I kinda dislike this form of progression, as even though each weapon has unique attacks and purposes, you'll most likely stick to whatever weapon you most recently got. And even then, once you find a weapon you like, you'll stick with it for the rest of the game. And for me, that was the shotgun. Due to this form of progression, all of the weapons feel like they're doing the same amount of damage, and because of this, I would have loved to see a skill tree system, or at least some form of way to boost health, damage, and movement. I love the designs of the weapons, as they feel connected to the Halloween theme while staying unique to each other. There's even a sword that mocks your form while using it. The music, despite being made within a small indie game, is amazing. It was composed by Yogan Jager. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I know I've said this a lot, but it fits the theme of the game while still trying different things. I love how it immerses you into the world and how the characters are acting. It fades into the background while you play, but it's still present, pushing you forward. It reminded me a lot of Banjo-Kazooie, with the more jumpy and exaggerated tracks, though this could be due to the fairy tale aesthetic that the game's also pulling from. The collectibles are a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion, as I wish there were more, but the game isn't a full-on collectathon, so I understand why there weren't as many. There's a total of 120 crow skulls throughout the levels, 20 per the 6 levels. These were quite fun to collect and search for, with you most likely getting almost all of them during your first playthrough of the levels, as they aren't super well hidden. I love this, as it lets people feel like they're finding things without getting overwhelmed by a huge number connected to the collectibles. You later use these crow skulls to pay for costumes, which you might have heard me briefly mention earlier. This was a great way to motivate the player to collect things without feeling like they're forced to do so. The costumes themselves, on the other hand, didn't satisfy me as much due to some looking too similar to the original outfit given. For example, I wish the cowboy went full on with a cowboy hat and western sheriff outfit. The best collectible would have to be the 6 gramophones, one for each level, and that's gotta be due to the amazing dance that Pumpkin Jack does after collecting each one. Pumpkin Jack took me 5.5 hours to complete, and I loved the game the whole way through. I can't wait to see what Nicholas Masonier does next. Even though the game does leave open the possibility for a sequel, I don't know if this would be the right move just yet.
maybe 5 years down the line after he's had the chance to work on some other project. So, would I recommend the game? Yes, but due to the $30 price tag and just how short the game is, maybe wait a little bit until there's a sale.